Good morning. Good morning. This is Bill Hawkins, and I much appreciate you joining us for Fraud Watch Friday. We're here today, and we're going to talk about some common scams that are affecting the residents of Alabama. We're joined by Elizabeth Garcia. Elizabeth is President and CEO of the Better Business Bureau serving North Alabama. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Bill. It's great to be here.
Well, Elizabeth, tell us about some of the frauds that are affecting the residents of North Alabama.
Well, first, let's talk a little bit about Robo Calls. Those are a major thorn in everyone's side. I can tell you from a personal perspective that I have gotten calls from the very same 1-800 number, 20 to 30 calls a day. And it has become a huge problem. And the reason I want to talk about that first is those calls are often a source of fraud and scams. In fact, in 2020 alone, we had over 45 billion, that's with a B, 45 billion robocalls in the United States. And of that number, over 46% of those were scam or fraud related. So think about that. Isn't that a crazy number? Yeah. That is just an outrageous number. So that means that nearly half of all of those calls were fraudulent. So how can you deal with that? Now, I'd love to say that there was one turnkey thing that you could do in order to stop all of those types of calls, which can lead to fraud and identity theft, but there really isn't. Now, of course, it's always a good idea to go ahead and start with the Do Not Call Registry. That is a good registry. However, it's important to understand that really only legitimate businesses or companies are really going to follow that registry. Other scam callers, they won't bother. So what we end up having to do is really take matters into our own hands in order to stop, or if not totally stop, at least reduce the calls. And there are several things that you can do. So normally your first round of defense would be your very own cell phone or your landline phone. But speaking of your cell phone, when you get a call, there's always a log of those calls. You can click on that number that's been the nuisance number, and you can click on the icon for more information about that call. And as you scroll down, you should be able to click block that number, and you can that way you can do it individually. However, if that doesn't work, then you do have some other options with your carrier, and we do recommend, whether you're with AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, or some of the other companies that have Comcast, Spectrum, and so forth, contact your carrier to find out what type of call blocking apps they may have available for you. Keep in mind that some are free, but others may have a fee associated. However, it may well be worth it if it will help reduce those robocalls and other scam calls for you.
That is an amazing number.
It is. It's crazy. But now another thing you can do, even if after you talk to the carrier, you're still having problems, you can also go to third-party resources or third-party suppliers of apps that will help you block calls. Now, think about, there are a couple names I want to mention, and then you can look those up and see if there's one that might best fit your situation. But first of all, think about First Orion, O-R-I-N, Hiya, H-I-Y-A, Nomo Robo, it's exactly as it sounds. And finally, think of Umail. Those are some great third-party apps or resources.
Great. Okay. What are some other things that folks are faced with?
Well, one of the biggest problems that people have is that often we receive phishing emails, text, and of course, telephone calls, a lot of which are through robocalls. And I want to cover some basic tips on what to look out for, what are the red flags, and what you should and should not do. So first of all, let's talk about a few red flags. If you ever receive an unsolicited call, meaning you didn't originally contact that organization, if you receive an unsolicited call from the IRS, supposedly from the IRS, from Social Security Department, from your local bank, claiming that there's a problem with your account or your Social Security number or your credit card number, Be extremely skeptical. Don't believe it. If
Right.
someone calls you out of the blue and says that there's a problem, the best practice is to always hang up and then go find a telephone number for that company or organization or agency from a trusted resource, and then call them back and say, look, I just received this call saying there was a problem with my account. I wanted to verify that information. That way you'll know that you're talking directly to the IRS, if that's a problem, the Social Security, or your local financial institution. Otherwise, you may end up giving away information to anyone who could then use it for identity theft.
You had shared with me a slide I'll call up, and it's you have the right. Could you
Yes.
talk about these, please?
Sure. These are basic rights that we all have as consumers or citizens, in many ways, to not be harassed by would-be scammers and fraudsters. So first of all, we have a right to say no. Simply because someone asked us for our Social Security number, a credit card number, or to verify those numbers, or for your address information, if you stop, and it's important to stop and think, does this make sense for this person to be asking me this information? If it doesn't make sense, you have the right to say no, or you have the right to ask, why do you need that information? Growing up, we've been taught to be nice to people and to defer to questions of authority. But in this case, you're protecting yourself if you stop and ask or stop and say no. It's important to ask for information in writing. It's your right to do that. It's your right to consider before making any decisions. So in other words, don't let anyone on a call try to harass you or be aggressive with you to make you make a decision on the spot or pay money on the spot, because you could end up falling for a scam.
Okay. Now, if people get these calls and they feel that they have been victims or they have a question, should
Sure.
they call you at the BBB, or what should they do?
Sure. They can always call us at 1-800-239-1642. That's flashing on the screen. We're here to help you. There are a number of places that you can report fraud and scams, from the FTC to IC3, the FBI reporting service. You can even file a report on our BBB Scam Watch. But if you have any questions and are wondering just exactly where to make that report, where to make that complaint, call the BBB and we'll be glad to help you make that decision. And if you find that you're a victim of fraud, we'll be happy to help you find the resources you need to mitigate that problem. And in addition,
So what else should folks watch out for?
well, whenever you get a call, if you receive a call from someone, or a robocall in one instance, and they're asking you for personal information of any kind, be very careful before giving it out. Because if you do that, you could find yourself in a situation where they would have all the information they need, all the puzzle pieces about your identity, to then perpetrate identity theft against you. If anyone calls you and claims that you're in trouble with the IRS or with your local police department, they have a warrant out for your arrest, unless you pay a certain fee by a certain gift card or cash app, hang up. Simply hang up, because it is most definitely a scam. Anyone who asks you to pay for any type of fee through a gift card or a cash app or any other form of immediate payment, it is a scam. And once that money is sent to the perpetrator, you'll never get it back. It's highly unlikely that you'll ever see that money again. So that is a huge red flag. If you ever receive a call from someone out of the blue, very aggressive, saying that you're in trouble unless you pay a certain fee immediately on a gift card, a cash app, or other method of immediate payment, you know it's a scam. Hang up. Don't worry about it.
Now, something that I have learned more about in the past few days is about cash transfer apps. What should folks be aware of on those?
Well, first of all, before you ever use one, make sure you investigate that particular app very carefully. You can contact the BBB and we can help you understand if that is the right app for you and if it is a legitimate app. But just don't. And if you're on a call with someone and they're trying to sell you something and they say, oh, here, we've got a great way for you to make your transfer. Here's this Cash App here, download it onto your phone. It's real easy. That'll make the transaction seamless. And oh, by the way, we'll give you a discount for using that app. Don't believe it. Don't fall for it, because that could very well be a scammer with their own scam company trying to get money from you or get access to your private information. So be very careful. Do your research first. Go to a trusted resource for that particular app before you make any purchases or provide any information to that app or to anyone using that app.
Thank you so much. That's really good information. And what a great resource the BBB is. Thank you, Elizabeth Garcia. Now, another app or another resource you can use is the AARP Fraud Watch Helpline. Thais Ross is joining us today, and she is with a volunteer with AARP Alabama who answers calls on that. Thais, tell us about some of the calls that you've gotten that relates to the things that Elizabeth was telling us about.
Well, good morning. Yes, I'm Thais Ross, state volunteer with AARP Fraud Network. And let me tell you a few things about what I do. I receive phone calls from callers who receive either phone calls, emails, computer pop-ups, even text messages from scammers. These scammers are very crafty people. They take advantage of unsuspecting callers. For example, I had a caller that received a pop-up on their computer. It shut it down. She couldn't do anything. But conveniently, there's a phone number listed there that tells her to call this number for help. And she does. She calls this number, and on the other end of the phone, there's someone there that says that you need to go out and get a gift card to pay for your computer cleanup. And once you go out and get that gift card and give those people the information on that card, both front and back, that money is gone. I mean, gone. There's no way to track it. There's no way to trace it. That money is irretraceable. So please don't do that. Okay. Elizabeth also mentioned about Robo Calls. We all get them. We get them on our house phones. We get them on our cell phones. I've even received them at work. With those Robo Calls, most of us have caller ID as well as voicemails on our phone. Please don't answer those calls. If you don't answer those calls, and if something of importance, let it go to voicemail. Then you can listen to that voicemail and see if it's a legitimate call and call that person back. Sometimes even the scammers leave voicemail. When they leave a voicemail and they have a threatening voicemail or aggressive voicemail saying that this is the Internal Revenue Service, this may be a government agency, the FBI, and they have a warrant out for your arrest, you know you haven't done anything. Why allow them to scare you into giving them a call, giving them more information that's needed, and they're able to scam you? People, if you get calls like that, please call AARP Fraud Network. 1-877-908-3360 is our number. And thanks. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. We've had a lot of great information today and a lot of good things to watch out for. So be careful, because fraud is out there and you need to protect yourself. We thank you for joining us today and being a part of this broadcast. Thanks to Elizabeth Garcia, and thank you, Thais Ross, for your help today. So let's see some of the programs that are coming up for AARP Alabama.